Welcome to an hour of power. I am Keith Anthony Blanchard, spiritual teacher, musician, author of the best-selling book Homecoming: Crossing the Bridge to the Soul, and your host of Center of Light. Let's dive in. Welcome to Center of Light. It's good to see you on this cold, dear Lord. It is cold. 3 degrees this morning. Got out, went to the store. Barely. Got out again this afternoon and it was 19 degrees, which is blistering cold. It didn't feel so cold. It felt like... Welcome to Center of Light. Strap in all my brother and sister astronauts as we launch for inner space. We're going to launch for an inner idea. We're going to enter ideas. Crazy, wild, fun, informative. We're still trying to weed through the nonsense to understand what is reality. The music you heard on the way in, See the Light, is by my spiritual band Lavender Soul. Beautiful word. I'm selling these CDs for $20 for all 3 albums. I was selling them $20 per. We have thousands, 3 phenomenal albums, very ambient. It's like Anya meets Zeppelin kind of groove, right? Lots of empty space, lots of place to float around in. When you're in the flow, it's like floating on the breath, like a feather, floating on the breath of God, right? Kind of idea. Also in this form, you will find a link to Homecoming: Crossing the Bridge to the Soul, my new bestseller, right there on Amazon. The link is in this form. If you have not read this book, it'll change you. Not because you're broken, because you just want something a little more conscious. You want to be a little more aware. A lot more aware. Man, jump into the fire. Got fire everywhere around. I'm a fire sign. I'm Sagittarius. Whatever sign you are, peace sign is for all of us. If you've read this book and you want to leave me a review, which I would greatly love and appreciate you more than you can imagine, which I do already, so icing on your cake, follow that same link, hyperjump to Amazon, and leave me a review or some stars. We all want to be stars. Today I want to tell you about my guest, Michael DarkHour Roser. We're going to be speaking about Back in Black. I hit the sack. It's been too long. Glad to be back. Yes, sir. Let me tell you about my guest tonight, Michael DarkHour Roser. Tonight's presentation, this is me in my little creative way, Back in Black. He's really into black projects, so he's a musician, so we're going to get into some Back in Black. At an early age, Michael DarkHour Roser was aware of the spirit world. In 1996, he began actively researching the paranormal, ET activity, and black projects. In opening this door of exploration, Michael has traversed an interesting path abundant with personal experiences. Determined to share these esoteric topics with the world, Michael began working in radio in 2002. He hosted an upground hip-hop show, dig that, which allowed him to eventually break into talk radio through his own means. In 2009, along with Rick Cianci, he founded DarkHour Paranormal. As an investigational team of 3, they had a television show, dig that, slated to broadcast, but a series of unfortunate experiences kept them from airing. Michael kept the moniker and began broadcasting on Spoon. Sometime after, with assistance of a good friend, Michael began a live stream on YouTube, DarkHour Paranormal. And we're going to drop that link into the forum. Go walk all over his page and make a huge stink. Let him know you exist. My bro, welcome to Center of Light. I can't hear you.
Usually when you unmute yourself, it's a lot easier for people to hear you. And I appreciate you pointing that out because, well, over here it's dark. I can't see anything. So thank you very much, Keith.
Yeah, bro. How you doing, my bro? You doing
good?
This
is awesome. I'm fantastic. How about yourself, brother?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Just doing a little technical changes here and there. Bro, I'm glad to have you on the show. I just recently had Wild Trees, which was a delight. And in the very near future, I'm going to have Wreaking Havoc.
Very nice.
Yeah. So what got you into all this? I mean, in your bio, it says at an early age, you were innate. It was innate in you. I mean, what was there a catalyst, something in particular that said, there's no way out of this for me?
I mean, once you step in it, you can't step out. That's just the way that it goes. Once you open the door. I remember having a medium friend of mine many years ago when I was young tell me, the less you know about the occult, the better. And although at face value, that particular statement doesn't necessarily seem to hold up with the research that we're doing, I understood what she meant, at least in the way of the darker arts and the black magic that, you obviously could get involved in if you chose to. For me, I was lucky that both my parents were pretty spiritual people. My mother really being a spearhead just by being herself in my life to learn and understand about spirituality. Now, she was very much on her own journey. I grew up essentially until the age of, I'd say 11 or 12 as a Christian, and that's how the household was run, except for my father, who was a Protestant, and I never got a clear answer as to why he didn't have to come to church with us on Sundays. I just kept hearing there are donuts, and I went. So at any rate, there was that religious background there, and as we went forward, there was one person in my folks' life. Her name was Sherry, and she was an exceptional medium. And I know this not because I had the chance to meet her, but because of the plethora of stories and content that came from her readings that I've heard personally and that have been dictated by my folks throughout the years. This woman was well beyond her years and what she should be. She wasn't just talking to them about what's going on with their personal lives or family and friends, career and stuff like that, the things that people normally talk about when you go in for a reading. She was sitting there saying, hey, listen, there's some prophecy here. We'll talk about extraterrestrials. And it was nothing my parents actually asked for. It was just something that she would start channeling. So they would go off on a tangent. that's where it kind of started for me. My parents having that interest in bringing it into our lives, very slowly integrating it as they learned what it was. And in my early teenage years, that's when I started to really blossom into my exploration into spirituality, at the very least.
All right. Young dark hour, shadow hour. Doing shadow work, hanging out in the shadows with shadow people. Then, though you got your crawl on, when did you actually start walking? When did you start having an experiences versus just having a keen an interest in it? When did you we're like, whoa, what the hell was that? You know, you and I, before the show in the green room, we saw an orb right behind your head. It wasn't dust, and
Yeah.
dust acts and behaves in a certain way. This wasn't it. This was a deliberate, it was conscious. It was deliberate. So when did this all started happening for you? The doors actually opened and you started experiencing wowing and being in shock and awe at all this.
First of all, you're recording this. I think you've been recording it since we first got on, right? Or is that just in
That
the
was
mode?
that was just you and I.
Okay,
When you and I were talking.
if that's recorded and you do have that clip at some point, I would love it if you could send it to me so I could then analyze it. But if you don't, it's worth a shot. But anyway, to get back to your question here, you could really say that I've had experiences my whole life, but as many people have said, it was just sort of a normal thing for me to see shadow people or witness something move on its own. It didn't, for me, seem very jarring and out of place. And I know that's sort of weird to say, but for me, it wasn't something that I had really any thought on. It just kind of happened and I let it go. Same with where I've seen certain things in the sky. There's like this certain acceptance that I'll look at. I'll be like, oh my God, what in God's name? Okay. Then I keep driving on or what have you, knowing what I can look at that moment. But I started walking the spiritual path and having more, I think, intense experiences by the time I was 13 or 14. I read a book by Betty J. Eady called Embraced by the Light. And that was a book essentially about near-death experience for those who are not familiar. I also read Neil Donald Walsh's Conversations with God, the first book, and then, of course, the subsequent, I think, two, because it was a trilogy as they came out. But that really sort of pried open the door for me. So I started peeking through and seeing something way outside the box and then identifying with it. And that's really the hook that got me to get back into that room, so to speak, and start really exploring what's outside, the normal way of perception and thought. Experientially, I've always had energy around me. I've always felt it. It was just a matter of somebody placing it for me. Hey, you've had this experience? Yeah. Well, this is what it is, and I'll show you why. Or, for example, in respect to Reiki and healing, back then we didn't call it Reiki. Yeah, it was a modality, but it still wasn't a household name. We just called it free energy healing. So when I sat down with the person who very intentionally taught me this practice, that was when I started identifying some of the past experiences that I had and saying, oh, wait, so this was an energetic expression. Or, that time I felt the vibration, through my arm when I broke it, this was some sort of healing that was happening that I was actually feeling in a tangible way. So, yeah, that's when I started to really walk. But for me, it was one of those things that as soon as I did open that door, it was like the backdraft. Woof. You know what I mean? Everything comes at you at once. It's like spirit sitting on the other side saying, well, when he's ready, but when he's ready, he'll know. So
So you don't just have experiences show up for you. You actually can see. You can see if you I'm assuming this is how it works for you. It's sort of the model that works for everyone. When we step back and somewhat soften our gaze, it kind of opens up the periphery. Is that how it works for you, or are these just interval occurrences?
It's both, actually. There have been times that I would sit down and intentionally attempt to see something. Great exercise, I believe the military used many years ago in the way of seeing auras, was to put yourself in a dimly lit room and then hold up construction paper of varying colors, rest your eyes on that gaze, and then try to see the outline of that person with the color. And you would train your eyes and possibly your third eye. I would imagine that's what you're seeing it with. But, in circumstances like that, it was intentional. Um, Other times I'll just minding my own business and I catch a flicker out of the corner of the eye. I'll turn around, I'll see it. And today I'm more skeptical and, I want to research more what I'm seeing rather than just accept it. but I see both.
Out of this entire field of possibility that you explore, I'm sure you like all of them equally, but there has to be one that has a little more of an edge, a little more possibility, a little more fun, excitement. You wake up in the morning, whatever time you wake up, and you start your day, and you're hoping, oh my God, I would love this thing to reveal it. What would that be for you?
I'll be honest. Yeah, that's a very good question, my friend. Um, I'm very much in the way of whatever's going to shake our paradigm in the most positive of aspects. Anything like that can come to fruition. For me, I want to know about time travel. I want to know about time travel because I know it's possible. I know we do it when we sleep. I want to know the implications behind that. I want to understand the math. I want to understand the energy and everything that goes within that in respect to time travel. And maybe that's what really propelled me into the scientific side, I think, of this field, was looking at things like that. And of course, technology of Tesla and, Einstein's theories and Newtonian physics and so forth, quantum field theory, you name it. Yeah, these things are really big part of my interest when it comes to this field, because I like the evidence side too, like everybody does, but it's not something I necessarily have to have, because I believe the experiential side is just as important, and sometimes you can lean on that. I mean, a lot of the stories we have are anecdotal, and yet they have gravity, and there are implications behind them. So, we can't just dismiss something because we don't have tangible evidence for it. Although I like to hold a piece of metamaterial in my hand, and I would love to have sat down with Phil Schneider and talked to him, or Al Balick, or Duncan Cameron, or Preston Nichols, or any of these guys.
Have you time traveled?
I do, when I'm sleeping.
Right.
Yep. It's I can't tell you where I'm going. I'm just there and I'm having the experience, and I know that I'm way out of the time frame. Now, that being said, do I know that it's necessarily time travel the way you and I talk about in a linear sense? No, I have no idea. It might just be interdimensional in terms of places that I go, but I do know a couple of the places that I visit regularly. They tie in with the Black Project stuff. So yeah, there's that as well.
We can move into that for sure. When you do go to the past, obviously you've had some experiences with the past. For me, when I go to the past, it's always black and white. I always have experience in color on soul levels and astral levels. But when I literally time travel for whatever reason, when I go back, it's black and white. So my mind's painting a picture. Hey, Keith, this is obviously the older world past. I remember sitting on my being next door to where I used to live, which is my father's sister's house, standing on this side of a chain link fence, looking at my mother and father in black and white, and they're sitting there doing what young couples do.
Oh, wow.
And I came to the chain link fence, and she said, Vergis, my father's name, there's a guy standing at the fence. and standing at the fence, they said, they got off the swing, they came over to me, and they said, can we help you? And I said, I am your son from the future.
Ha!
So
wow.
Let's get into some black projects, man. I like everybody else, I love the conspiracy.
Keep
stuff.
going.
Yeah, absolutely. Conspiracy is not only that which it sounds like, a conspiracy. That there's so much gray area. Well, there is gray area for those who are newbies on the path, but for those who are learned, those who have developed some sort of intuition, that door begins to open. It begins to widen, and there's a lot more able to be seen. So when you have these experiences, the black ops and all that, black projects, tell me about the black projects, the fascination it has for you, and what exactly is that?
Well, I never really sought out the Black Project, and it's sort of like I'd stumbled upon it back in it was either the late 90s or very, very early 2000s. I came across Al Balick and his work, and watched his videos and the dissertations that he had and the articles that he had written at the time about the Philadelphia experiment specifically. And somehow along the way, that really kind of transitioned into the Montauk Project, which I've spoken quite extensively about in certain respects throughout this past year, more so than I ever thought I would. Now, it's no light thing to say there's a possibility that, somebody has a connection with something like this, especially considering that we don't know for sure. You and I sitting here, we don't have documentation to back up that a project like Montauk ever existed. And yet you have
Excuse
many
me, Michael.
people.
For those
Yep.
who don't know what the Montauk Project is, can you give a little summary?
Long story short, the Montauk Project was a project that consisted of different segments, namely Phoenix 1, 2, and 3. Each one of those different segments dealt with a different area of esoterica and technology. Phoenix 1 was mind control. Phoenix 2 was technology and psychic extraction, we'll say. And then phase 3 was time travel and dipping into the super soldier projects and Montauk Boys and so forth. So it was a very empirical project that some group of people did. We don't really know exactly who it was. I mean, you could call it the shadow government, but the fact of the matter is that there is no record that the United States government or any body within that government ever funded this project in any way, shape, or form. That being said, there's definitely certain explanations as to where they got the money to do this and where they went after the downfall of the project, but nobody knows for sure.
Give us a little overview of a super soldier.
Well, I mean, now we're really dipping into the more fantastical end, and I mean, of course, time travel is fantastic itself, but the super soldier thing was really something I think that was introduced in Montauk and was followed up in projects after that occurred in the late 80s and the early 90s, and actually throughout the 90s, to be fair. They were abducting people, and they were putting them through these programs to basically break them and then reprogram, which they learned how to do through the second phase and into the third phase of the Montauk Project with the Montauk Boys, the original people that were there and participated in that. Less than 1% of the Montauk Boys survived, and we do still have people today who claim to be part of that, although most of them don't want to talk about it. They want no publicity with it, and I don't blame them. But there are others who are bold enough that they remember, then they want to talk about it so that it can't be forgotten, and for the awareness that these sort of things do happen. I have someone coming on the show on Thursday, and his name is Alondra Markman, and he's been through this, but he was in the later projects and was sent back. From what I understand, this is what happened with some of these boys. They were sent back to observe and collect information from the original project and then bring it back to that time period. So we have people who walk around like that.
Everyone, Keith Anthony Blanchard is Center of Light Radio. I'm just getting Center of Light Radio back up again. I had a major social media crash. I died. All my work for many years, I had to let go to jump into the fire. I truly grieved. When I had enough of grieving, I said, you know what? I'm done. There's nothing to do. I can bring it back. So I'm bringing Center of Light Radio back, which I am now with my guest tonight, Mr. Michael DarkHour Roser. In the very near future, I have Wreaking Havoc coming up. He's not only just into the paranormal's in him. Mm-hmm. Would you agree with that?
I sure would.
Right.
Guy knows more about orbs than I ever will.
So everyone, I've been posting Michael's link to his channel in the forums, YouTube and Facebook. Check him out. He's a very good talk show host. He's very learned. He has a passion about him. He'll lay you out the dialogue, and it's up to you what you do with it. Bro, right? You just clear and simple, just laying it out. Let me ask you this, bro. You and I are so paralleled in lots of ways. I love the paranormal. I love all the cryptid stuff. A lot of the cryptid stuff. I like the mainstream cryptid stuff. Other than that, I know that if these exist, and I believe they do, then everything else is just subfolders for me. And I don't have that time because that's not really where my passion is, like you and wild trees. And I like the black ops, but the black projects, but I also like the extraterrestrial stuff because it's been such a big part of my experience. Have you had your own conscious, lucid experiences with, let's call them others?
I can't say that I know for sure that anything I've come into contact with is definitely extraterrestrial in origin. When we talk about these black projects, curiously enough, there is the mention that extraterrestrials were involved in those as well, which is interesting. But personally, I've never come across one that I said, all right, this is an extraterrestrial experience. I've been abducted, or I've been through something with some other species, not to my recollection. Now, that being said, I've had some pretty interesting dreams, but not off the top of my head can I remember a time that I vividly saw what you might call a gray alien or something like that. Again, this being said, it's been mentioned many times that sometimes the extraterrestrials will come to you in different forms. Perhaps it's an angelic form, perhaps it's a deceased family member, and it doesn't really matter whether you know the origin of that energy or not. Whatever the interaction is what it's supposed to be. So there's definitely a possibility that I've done that, because there have been some figures in dreams that were just much larger than I would ever have expected, in not necessarily physically but energetically, more prominent in the lucidity of their being, wherein the dream now starts to shift around this experience rather than we're shifting around the dream experience. And there are factors and variables and so forth. We become the center, and that becomes almost a lucid dream, wherein I can remember the conversation. I remember the feelings associated with it. I remember the train of thought that I had. And when I first saw something like this, oh, wait, aren't you my uncle? You're dead, right? No. Oh, okay. So what'd you do yesterday? You know what I mean? It's a very easy thing to accept when it's right there in front of you in the dream world. So,
I
yeah,
like
but
that you said
unfortunately, no
that.
contact.
That was going to lead me to my next question. I already know the answer, but I want to ask it just so we can play it to the end, play the game.
Mhm.
I that you described and said you not per se had a visit to where you could say this was an alien with almond eyes or whatever from another realm, this forth and that way. But I know you believe. I know you know. Is there a part of you that's still not sure? And the reason I ask this question is because when I had that experience with Nucleus 8, same thing, just different, same thing. I knew it was happening to me. I was like, what? This is actually happening. This is really happening. But I had some reservation. You, as a real researcher, scientist, metaphysical scientist, do you find yourself absolutely knowing, but there's still that I'm just not sure?
Good question. If you asked me 2 years ago, I might have given you a different answer than what I'm going to say now. But because of my recollection of the Montauk Project and the way that that's come back to me in various visions, really uncomfortable, deep-seated emotional experiences, where to the point where I think we all get at a certain crossroad where we say, well, what we're experiencing, damn, we must be crazy. I mean, this seems out of control. It's happening to me. You get these ideas in your head. And I got to that point where I literally would lay in bed and say, I have to know why I have such a connection here, because I didn't feel like, yes, I've felt this before, but it has intensified over the last year, a thousandfold, and left me with no real, rather than just having the experience and knowing that there's some connection there. So in answering your question, yeah, I definitely leave that open to be a possibility that, tomorrow, maybe I remember something that was really tucked deep in the subconscious, way underneath the limen, so to say. So yeah, that's definitely a possibility that I keep open.
Are you able to do this at will? Will meaning, I don't know if you're a meditator, but meditation for many people helps them to release the body consciousness to where they're able to free, so to speak, themselves and jaunt wherever it is they want. Or or are you one of those that when you lay down at night and you go into your space? I like just going into the nothing, the space of everything before I just go,
Hmm.
going to sleep. I want to state an intention. Are you good at that kind of thing? Do you do that kind of thing?
I definitely meditate. I've meditated actively since I was 12, with varying hiatuses here and there as I was getting older. But I've found, much to my chagrin and dismay, that if I try to meditate before I go to sleep, I will not sleep that night. That means I will travel. and not get a wink of actual sleep.
Yeah.
And I've tested this over and over again to the point that I'm now very convicted. I cannot do it. So I'll sit down in the middle of the day or before a show, and I'll do a meditation, 20 minutes, half an hour, and it really just kind of puts me into a nice space. I don't necessarily use it as a vessel of any sort of travel or extra exploration, although sometimes those experiences do come to me when you're in that sort of nothingness space that's a lot wider than you normally would think it would be, just looking at it this way. It's a dimension of sort. There's some sort of headspace that, again, it's just super wide, and you can just feel that peripherally. So when I actually dream, or at least when I go into sleep, that's when I naturally just travel. And I'm sort of like, it's been described to me that I'm sort of like a cosmic antenna for many different dimensions and perhaps many different frequencies, if you want to look at it in that way. And what I'm able to do when I'm at my best is to go out into the ethers, gather that information, what I'm learning there, and then anchor it back, and then remember and be able to express that, through perhaps mediumship or my art or writing, something like that.
I didn't know you were an artist, bro. I knew you were a musical artist. You mean you're an artist?
Oh, yeah. I was a cartoonist for a very long time. Very much in the vein of Calvin and Hobbes and Bloom Country, Opus and so forth.
So you're a cartoonist, but are you an animator as well? Or do you know an animator?
I wanted to get into that.
We need to talk after the show about something.
Sure.
Right.
Sure. Absolutely, man.
We're at the bottom of the hour. Are you okay with the song break? I'm loving the flow.
Absolutely, brother.
Everyone,
this is great. This is exactly what I was hoping for.
Everyone, Keith Andy Blanchard here, having a fantastic time with my brother, Michael DarkHour Roser, talking about Back in Black. I hit the sack. It's been so long. I'm glad to be back. Yes, sir. Get loose. Having a good time. Loving Sooner of Light Radio. Love being back. I got some really powerful guests coming in the very near future. They're all powerful. I like dabbling in the arena of powerful. I'm going to take a song break. Like I said a little earlier, Lavender Soul CDs, my spiritual group, are available. All 3 CDs for $20. My singer said, Keith, come get these things. I have thousands. So $20 per. Now, all 3 for $20. Also, Homecoming Crossing the Bridge to the Soul. This guy right here, my new bestseller. The link is in the forum. My guest tonight, Michael DarkHour Roser, his link is in the forums. He has a show on YouTube called DarkHour Paranormal. Check him out. He's just a very likable guy. Just a likable guy. And he's a very clear mind, and he's very passionate about what he does. Lavender Soul going to be right back. Let me see what we're going to play. How about some Choice? Where's Choice? Choice. There we go. See you shortly.
Remember that all things are possible. You must choose to be accountable, responsible, enough to believe, and open your heart to receive.
for you to plan out your life. Seeing what you do by your own design. It's all up to you to make it what you can. It's of your own free will, what don't you understand? Choice, life's a choice. It's your choice. Your life is a choice. Choice, life's a choice. It's your choice. Your life is a choice. Choice, life's a choice. It's your choice. Your life is a choice. Choice, life's a choice. It's your choice. Make a choice.
Welcome back to Center of Light. Tonight, my guest is Mr. Michael DarkHour Roser. He has a YouTube channel, DarkHour Paranormal. Morbid Angel on YouTube. I got your attention. Give me your heart. I'm going to give you mine. You can be mad. You can stand on your head. You can jump up and down. You can tell your parents there's nothing they can do about what I'm going to share with you out of love. Since you exposed yourself, let's let everyone see how you're acting. Now, you can be triggered. You can be mad. I'll leave your post there forever for everyone to see. I'm not trying to call you out. I'm trying to call you inward. Why don't you jump into considering other people's real evidence instead of your own personal, subjective religion all the time, exclamation point. He wrote personal twice, if to say howdy twice, then he can't accuse me of doing anything, plus it makes him look fallible. I would not be doing this if I didn't see these next two words, all capitalized, every letter. Demonic attachment, not Gnostic. I mean well. Horseshit. You don't mean well. That's why you're counteracting yourself by saying, I mean well. You don't mean well. You used the words demonic attachment. And it wasn't from a delivery because you care. You're trying to peg someone through a filter of your own nonsense. Now, you can do what you got to do. It's okay. I still love you. I wanted you to come back to center with me. Bring me into your center instead of what you got going on in your monkey mind. It's not nice. I don't play that. If I have to block you, I will. And I don't want to do that. I want to be a part of your family as well as yours and mine. As you say in closing, just saying what I see, grace works in mysterious ways. It sure does. Welcome back to Center of Light, my brother. How are you?
Welcome back, everybody, to Back in Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Please try my dark roast coffee.
Morbid, you're loved beyond measure. I mean that sincerely. It triggers me. I grew up in a family with a sister who was bullied, teased, criticized. Not that that's what you're doing, but either way, it triggered me. I'm being honest. She couldn't walk, and so I, being the short little runt that I am, I would kick football players' ass. And so it triggers in me something very not nice. And I'm mirroring that to you because stick around, okay? Brother, we're at the bottom of the hour. What gets you going as a researcher in your fields of exploration? We did talk about that earlier, but what would you like to bring to Center of Light Radio? What subject you want to move into?
We can talk about, well, you know what? I did mention to you that maybe we should dive into some of the recent documents and technology that, third phase of Moon and third phase has been pulling up respectively. But you know what? I think I'm going to put that on the back burner for just a moment because we've been talking a lot about that. But it is still very interesting. Now, look, today is the day that Countdown to Disclosure has been released by Third Phase of Moon, and I was very privileged to see this movie about 2 months ago, maybe a month ago now, and I was blown away. I've seen many different documentaries on ufology and the technology that we may or may not possess, and a lot of times I've walked away saying, well, I feel like I want more. This particular movie, and I highly encourage all of you guys to go and see this. Believe me, I wouldn't recommend it if I didn't totally have my heart behind it 100%. they talk about the false narratives and how we might have responsibility in using this technology, because guess what? They do have it. They make it very clear, with Dr. Greer and Michael Sala as special guests throughout this entire presentation. They make it very clear that we do have the technology that you and I suppose we have, but it's now a matter of how to integrate it responsibly, like how you might approach AI and, the downfalls that can arise from that. And one of the things that was mentioned too, that's very curious, is that perhaps extraterrestrials are watching us go through this process, this transition, because they themselves, and I do believe this, at one point in their evolution had to cross the same path and do something, or they were presented with the same challenges. Now, however the society or culture reacted is a different story altogether. We don't really know. I mean, we see that they're here, or we feel the presence of something like that and can come to the conclusion that they made it through all right. But, who knows? Who knows? This is some really interesting technology that is changing the world more than, the last 100 years just completely flipped up on its head with what's available to us. I mean, the fact that I can walk around with this little computer. That's what this is. This is a little computer that you are emotionally invested in, whether you have your passwords or your social media contacts or your friends that you call. It doesn't matter. This thing is always on your person in one way, shape, or form. And anytime you have a question, you just look it up. Hey, Google, what happened in 1959 in the state of Delaware? And you can find those answers, whereas we used to have to go to the library and stuff. So the technology that's coming next will be more impactful than what we've even seen. I'm talking about flying cars. I'm talking about flying cars. I'm talking about gasoline.
We have sex, intimate, powerful sex with technology all the time. And they have access to our most sacred secrets. Basically, you're naked. That's why I use the word sex. Do you feel that there is a positive aspect to AI in the integration process, even more so from having this thing so close to your face to in your face to in your head? Do you see anything positive coming from that?
I think that perhaps something like Neuralink is a little far-fetched for me. I did hear that this was something they were going to put together and present probably about 20 years ago, not necessarily from Tesla, but somebody had mentioned through a reading, they said, you will see this happen in your lifetime. It just, putting a chip in your head or anywhere in your body just seems very invasive to me. And I think that there are more subtle ways to achieve certain intelligence and perhaps states of consciousness that we don't necessarily need to become cyborgs ourselves. With AI, I mean, it really comes down to how responsible we're going to be with this, because we do have to put a cap on it at some point. It can grow to
because it'll kill our humanity. I mean, that's the whole reason we're here. My thought about AI and integration with, I don't have an issue with it. I really don't. I think it can be a beautiful, powerful thing. There is literally, in my opinion, no difference from sitting here and on this keyboard when I can have something in my possession, if you will, to where I don't have to use the keyboard. I love the advancement of human technology that is in the benefit and the all game of it for humanity. Now, my problem with AI in the integrative process is I want to know what is the intention behind the manufacturer and the producer of said thing. So if someone comes out and says, look, this, and it is what it is, and it's all pure and it's generic and it is exactly how it's described, no one, and because you've done your research, look, plug me into the system. If I got paid by typing digits, surpass Jeff Bezos. But yeah, I could see the possibility of it being a beautiful thing, provided it just doesn't move into the Terminator, the cyborg territory.
Yeah, I think, I believe that the militaries of the world already have that technology and have been experimenting very heavily with creating robots to go into battle and do things that we can't go deeper in the ocean or higher in the sky, you name it, wherever we can't go, these other devices will be able to. Here's what I think. Okay, given the trajectory that I think we're on right now, I think we're going to see a day very soon where there's going to be an instance or something happens that's like Neuralink. Okay, maybe it's Neuralink itself, because this is a wireless device. Obviously, they plant it in your skull, and it's going to pick up frequencies. So it's basically a receiver to some degree. What's going to keep them from integrating the technology to perhaps have a cell phone in your head? So now you make a call with the thought of somebody, or you send a text message to somebody else who has a Neuralink in their head. Why? My concern is that they might be all connected. And, next thing you know, we're having these telepathic experiences that are very secretive in nature. Because if you're doing telepathy in a natural way, you don't have those imposed veils like you do when you do it with technology. There's not the limitations that technology will present. Even after years of study and development, there are always going to be some limitations wherein technology can't go further, but the spirit can. And we're able to do all of this already. So we're really at an impasse where we have a choice. What do we want to do? Do we want to become a spiritual society, or do we want to become a technological society? Because I believe that there are many species out there who have gone one way or the other, perhaps the Greys as a general example, knowing that they don't have, at least from people's reports, they have no sexual organs whatsoever. And the reason for that...
Too bad.
Yeah, believe me, they've forgotten that whole right
If
hemisphere.
that is called evolution,
brains,
I want to stay where I'm at.
Yeah, a lot of us would miss that if that went gone one morning upon waking up. But yeah, they basically bred it out of themselves and became very left-brained and masculine energetically. They became a purely technological society and were able to do things way beyond our imagination with this. And yet, there's no spirituality. So
let me ask you this, Michael. I'm really into dialogue, and I don't ever really mean to step on my guest's toes. But I know my audience, and I know myself as an audience member, because I'm always learning. When someone says something that really fires me up, I want to stop and say, please give me some more of that. When you talked about
I'm a host, I know that.
When you talked about the Greys, and when I'm looking for my words because there's so much coming in. Mm-hmm. When these beings, these alien Greys, you talked about how they have a certain level of intelligence. They only operate in a certain side of the brain. They don't have the fuel capacity. A lot of my research, a lot of my experience about any particular race of being that fall under this umbrella, one of the reasons they quote abduct and hybrid you with an alien or an extraterrestrial, and they bring you back a few years later so you can meet your child, is because they don't understand human emotion. So they're trying to learn. They don't understand human emotion. They don't understand why they stick this thing up your butthole while you're laying on the table freaking screaming. They just don't understand that. They understand that to some level this is, whatever. But a lot of people believe that these little beings, these little Greys, are hive mind, that they are actually not, have no per se, what is the word I'm looking, sovereign biology. They're more of just literally an animatronic, a robot created by, I don't want to get into the draconian Corey, I'm not into that. Do you believe that these are actual biological entities, or do you, just in your own intuitive thought, do you think that these have some more of a cyborg component?
It's interesting. You actually, I'll call it this because I don't know what else to call it, interrupted me at the exact right moment, because that's exactly what I was just going to say, that these theories kind of bend around the idea that these extraterrestrials don't understand human emotion, and that they're sort of studying us again in an empirical way, poking and prodding and doing their best to remember what that side of humanity, or not humanity, but consciousness is. As time has gone on, I've heard a lot of talk about some of these Greys, or the ones that initially are abducting people, being some sort of sentient cyborg of sort, containing some sort of biology, but at the same time they might be drone-esque in their behavior. But these are technologies that I don't think we would really understand at this point, because I think some of these beings have been able to manipulate conscious in such a way that they can extract it from one body, place it into another body, or fragment it to do whatever they choose with that. I mean, if we were able to do something like that on any level in the past, as it's been reported again with Black Projects, then the extraterrestrials have been doing it for years, and they just have a higher understanding. So while I believe there might be some of the components that we're talking about in respect to studying human emotion, I think that unless they've literally lost that part of their history, and it's possible if they don't actually have a home planet, if they're only living in a ship like in Star Trek or something like that, nomadically, there would have to be a circumstance, I think, within their consciousness grid that they would have completely forgotten that way of being, entirely. It's possible. Look at us. We can only remember back however many thousands of years, and there's still debate on how old the Earth is. So we don't know either. I mean, it's something curious to think about. But yeah, I do believe that there are big ones in control of some of these smaller ones that we're seeing that are doing most of the work. And yeah, that's what happens. Yeah.
My time with Nucleus 8, alien human hybrid that I've experienced for 4.5 years, he told me, I agree, I subscribe to the idea that a lot of these grays, whoever, it doesn't, I don't care if you're gray, white, black, red, or plaid, or polka dot, I don't really care, that some of these beings are likely, many of hive mind drones, clones, AI, robots. But Nucleus did tell me, he said, we have grays on it's not a planet, it's a mothership station, 27, it's either 23 or 27,000 light years in another dimension. Mm-hmm. That these beings, I think, it may be the tall ones, it doesn't matter what the image is, but they have these beings of feminine energy on his planetary mothership station that are called mothers. And these beings have the capacity. They call God, at least this civilization calls God is breath. How poetic is that? Breath. What is God? God breathes life into man. So they call God the idea of something higher than themselves, and they follow the hierarchy to the letter more so than we do. They call God breath. And these mothers, what they're able to do, if you're a willing participant, you know that through telepathy. When you look at them and they look at you, they have the ability to pull you into themselves. Literally, they will suck you from your body, not out of invasiveness, because you're saying, take me on a journey. They will remove the real you from what you think is you and bring you into themselves, and you move into a universe entirely.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's
right?
Incredible. I mean, but believable in respect to what some of these species might be capable of doing. Just a very advanced form of spirituality that I think at some point the technology crosses over, and again it becomes the responsibility of that culture or again that species to use it for the collective good.
And so that's actually sort of what's happening to everyone anyway, because when you're laying on your bed, you simply, what you know is you and think is real is truly just laying on your bed. So these beings are coming to us or to whoever, if they are, and they're saying, how can I literally take you off of your bed and bring you to somewhere? Well, all this mechanism happens within, so they're able to do this anyway. So, Michael, we are pretty much at the top of the hour. I don't mind playing over a little more. Where does this conversation lead you, and what would you like to share with the Center of Light listening audience about your passion, what gets you going, and anything else about your future, anything you want to share with the listening audience to how they can find you and what's coming down the pike for you?
Sure. So you guys can find me at DarkHour space paranormal. Okay, you got to put that space between DarkHour space paranormal in order to find me with the algorithms on YouTube. You can also find me on Third Phase, doing Third Phase UFO Report, doing many repurposed videos for that in the best of ways, along with the panel, and occasionally on Third Phase of Moon. And we do have something in the works that I can't talk too much about, but it's very exciting, and it will come out within due time here, but it's going to be something different.
Oh, bro, I can't, out of all of my pet peeves, I don't have many, but I can't talk about it. That's horseshit.
You know what? You know what?
I get it. I'm teasing.
Close. It's so close that I mean, I want to say. Believe me, I'm like jumping out of my seat to share this, but I can't say it yet.
I get it.
Be fair.
Yeah, because some Wayne Dyer, Dr. Wayne Dyer, put me on my spiritual knees many times listening to his presentations and talks. He says the more you talk about something you're trying to create, the more you instead instill the ego. I get it. We want to share. We want to be no matter what we try to tell ourselves. It's exactly what he said. And so when we hold back, it's like if you're an author, a musician, whatever you are that is seeking, creating something that you'll have a yield from. For example, 30-year project. Although I had many books and this is a compressed version of it, when the UPS man shows up at your house and goes, package for DarkHour or John Doe, when you see that thing, that's one thing. But when you take a knife and you cut that tape open and you actually experience that, wow, the validation, the level, it's actually a time travel. Because you go back to when you started it, the whole present moment of doing it, and now the future potential of this thing, the door's open.
Music is time travel. Flat
Totally.
out. Music specifically. I mean, we could talk about writings and literature and stuff like that. Yes, but in my experience, that's what I have come to find. I mean, I have a whole catalog of music I've been writing since I was 10 years old, and every once in a while I'll go back and listen to something, and it takes me right back to that time period. I remember the smells. I knew exactly where I was. I remember the process of recording. I remember what I did in class that day.
Smell is one of the most amazing time travel stepping stones that you can use.
Oh, I would agree with you on that. And in fact, I think it's one of the most prominent ways that paranormal phenomenon usually manifests. At first, you might smell the cigar smoke of somebody who was living there, or the perfume of a woman who used to reside in the residence. You catch these first before you catch the auditory or the visual effects, at least in most cases from my research. So yeah, but we're time traveling all the time. It's not shaking our paradigm to the point where nothing is familiar to us. It's different kind of time travel, but we're very flexible in that way energetically. It's just something that we all do, but are very unconscious and don't call it as such.
Earlier tonight, you mentioned Betty Eadie, her book, Embraced by the Light. Is that right? Embraced by the Light?
Yep.
I read that book many years ago, and the one thing I remember out of the entire book is that when she passed, eventually in this experience of being on the other side, which is actually inside and all around everyone, right? There's no other place it can be. There's no other side. The other side is actually inside. But she said that she saw this rose blossom. And I'm paraphrasing, it's been so long. She moved into this rose, and in this rose, of course, the scent that we talking about, it was the unfoldment of God for her. Do you remember that passage in that book about her being, when she first crossed, that this rose unfolded and everything happened from there? Or am I misremembering?
No, I do remember this experience. In fact, when I eventually saw, what was it? What Dreams May Come, I think, with Robin Williams.
What an absolute freaking redonkulous, amazing movie.
A lot of truth in
that. To paraphrase what it's like to be disembodied completely.
Yes. A lot of truth in that movie. And, when I look at Betty J. Eadie's book, I understand today that we all see things through different filters. We all have our own lens of experience, and maybe that's why she had a more of a religious experience with her near death. But we hear all sorts of things. I mean, I've heard even the negative end of passing over and being led down, a dark hall by voices that eventually, when you catch up to them, they then tear you to shreds until you get to your final last nerve. And most of these people call on whatever higher power that they know of. I think a lot of this is created by the mind, and I think that
it is absolutely unequivocally the mind. Because sometimes you can say, in the name of Jesus, I rebuke you. And they'll go,
Exactly.
and they don't give a squat because you're not coming through with conviction. Conviction has nothing to do with Jesus. You can hold up this glass of water and say, in the name of this glass of water, you need to flee me, simply because I'm not, what it's really about is how much fear you are trying to deliver in your supplication to make your reality better. It won't. If you're so scared to death, you're scared to death, and no amount of any mantra, chant, deity will ever help you. You can just say coloring book. You can just love being a coloring book artist so much because you find yourself in your power. You can say Barney, and they will flee from you. So is that your experience, that you have to have some level of absolute conviction versus just some rhetoric or spiritual dogmatic words that we think that we can chant, just make things just simply go away?
The short answer to that is yes. I think a lot of it has to do with intention. That being said, in my experiences, especially with the more negative end of the paranormal, I've come to realize there are entities that do not respond to white light or invoking certain names. And I'll be honest with you, the only deity that I have been able to work with when things get so rough that, there's nobody else that can help me is Archangel Michael and his Legion of Light. Now, you can call it anything you want, okay? I don't particularly prefer the religious connotations, but that's how I know the energy. And that Legion of Light, and whenever I call that into my space, within moments, whatever's bothering me is gone.
I enjoyed my time with you, sir. Anything you want to leave us
Likewise.
with in closing?
I want to thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome,
Keith,
bro.
for having me on tonight. This has been an awesome conversation. It reminds me of sitting down at the Sunday dinner table and, just having a very intellectual, insightful discussion about ideas and theories and experiences. And that's why I love your show. Back when your publicist, I believe it was, had contacted me to come on Dark Hour Paranormal, I was very excited, reading your bio, and then had great time with you both times you were on the show. And of course, Black Lotus will miss you in the immediate, but we always have a seat for you, my friend. So if you'd
Thank
ever
you.
like to join, I'm sure that in this way I can talk for all of us there. If not, Damien, you'll let me know. But I think that I can say
Right.
you are more welcome to always be with us. And you know what? I'll miss you, but I'll be looking for you in the future. And once again, thank you very much, guys. Check me out, Dark Hour Paranormal, third phase of Moon, and do yourselves a favor and go and check out
And
Goof
third
On.
phase of the moon is doing quite well, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
I've been
Oh, yeah.
watching, and every once in a while I will hyper jump to the third phase, and I'm like, wow, very, very cool. Bro, thank you. You're always welcome here. I really enjoy your demeanor. And one thing I like from my experience with you tonight is I don't have to be so center of light host proper. You and I just a bunch of knuckleheads hanging out and doing what we do, and we can just have this dialogue. And I get it, and I love the other aspect as well. But you're welcome back here anytime, sir. Keep us
thank you
posted
very
on what
much.
you're doing and how you're doing it. And
I
Thank you.
appreciate that, Keith. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
bro.
And we'll have to get you back on Dark Hour Paranormal very soon, my friend.
let me know.
Oh, I will.
Everyone, Keith Anthony Blanchard hanging out with Michael Dark Hour Roser. We have been speaking about Back in Black. All that is black. But all that is black is not black at all. In fact, black is the new light. Right? Center of Light Radio, I'm back. Enjoying myself. I need a break once in a while. Sometimes we all simply just need a break. A break from what? Break fast, breakfast. We need to wake up from a night's slumber and sleep to eat something that's nourishing. It's good to go hungry for a little while. Hunger is an amazing thing. Hunger makes you seek out what you really want to eat. It's called manna, sustenance. Speaking of manna and sustenance, I'm going to get me some manna and sustenance and take care of my beautiful little cat. I want to acknowledge my little cat, Crystal. She is full of fire. She's a tortoise. Look up tartitude. Tortoise shell cats have an attitude. And she is on full throttle. But when I sit in this chair and light those candles, she disappears. 5 minutes before I'm done, intuitively, she goes, stretch, she starts coming back, quote, alive. You're love beyond measure. You're a treasure to me. Or you're a treasure to yourself. Do you feel that? See you soon.
inside.